TV Crazy Man here, under the weather just a little bit, but still here looking back at great memories, goof special effects, and amazing guest stars from the 80s stuntman show, The Fall Guy, starring my personal hero, Lee Majors. Yes, there will be references to the $6 Million Man.
I don't know what's going on, but I'll take any ride out of here I can.
On the episode Just a Small Circle of Friends, Colt tries to save Heather Locklear's character from a cult and ends up needing a helicopter rescue. But as always in Hollywood, not everything is as it seems. Yeah, that's definitely not Lee Majors or Douglas Barr. That's not even two stuntmen. That's a couple of stunt mannequins. On the episode Going For It, it really does look like Lee Majors is performing his own stunt here, but it's not quite as dangerous as the distance shot would lead you to believe. It just appears for a couple of seconds, but if you look closely you can see a chain attached to the sideways car. It was probably being towed on its side, fully secure for the actor's safety, while a stuntman performed a stunt for the distance shot. There were a few times when, despite the Fall Guy's reputation for real stunts, toy models were actually used on occasion. On the episode Colt's Outlaws, there were quite a few models that showed up. But the really obvious scene occurs at the end, showing the Fall Guy truck rocketing over a pond in what is clearly a toy boat. One thing I wasn't able to figure out is, where did the truck's tailgate go?
Colt, you're not.
1 second the tailgate is clearly on the truck, and then it's conveniently gone. Maybe Lee Majors really was bionic and he ripped it off real quick. That's what I choose to believe. On the next episode, entitled Colt Breaks Out, Colt loses his bumper, and then after the commercial break is over and Colt is still on the run, the bumper is back somehow. Either he had a spare, or maybe they hoped we just wouldn't notice. More models showed up on the Season 2 episode The Chameleon and The Chase. Other shows use models as well, such as Knight Rider and even the Dukes of Hazzard in their final season. Lee Majors did do a lot of his own stunts, but after he almost lost his eyesight on an accident on set during filming of The Fall Guy, the series was prompted to rely even more heavily on professional stuntmen to protect the star. Sadly, during the series run, there were 2 stunts that went horribly wrong that injured several. One way actors get to be in the action without risk to life and limb is the good old-fashioned use of placing the actor in front of a film. A technique that stands out pretty bad these days looking back at older shows, but it does bring back fun memories and it's fun to watch. They didn't always use a film in the background. Sometimes a solid blue paint was a stand-in for the sky or other colored solid backgrounds, but the lack of a moving background usually gives it away as being indoors almost all the time.
I shot trigger.
The Fall Guy had a couple of great episode tributes to classic Western heroes.
That's his best trick, kid.
Which was probably the biggest gathering of classic TV characters since the 1960 episode of Maverick, Hadley's Hunters.
Thank you very much.
You know who he is?
No.
The episode Happy Trails featured Roy Rogers, his horse Trigger, Jack Kelly from Maverick,
Jack Kelly, Bart Maverick,
Doug McClure and James Drury from The Virginian,
I know, those were great days, Doug. Those men were real, down to earth.
and Pat Buttram, sidekick of movie cowboy Gene Autry.
This is for Roy, and that's for Gene.
Lee Majors and James Drury actually co-starred in the final season of The Virginia. At that time it was retitled Men from Shiloh for its last season. Douglas Barr, who played Howie, said that his favorite guest star on the show was Roy Rogers, who he said lived up to his status as a legendary hero. Lee Majors said that the reason he got Roy Rogers to appear in The Fall Guy was that when he was a kid growing up in a small town in Kentucky, he would go to the movies and pay 10 to 15 cents to watch 2 westerns on a Saturday matinee, which he said was usually Roy Rogers or Gene Autry.
I never felt better. Watching all my old heroes.
In both episodes, Happy Trails and King of the Cowboys, Roy saves Jody in classic Western fashion involving runaway horses.
Now!
We get to see Roy and other heroes from the West take on bad guys as well, allowing Colt to see his heroes in action. The two Fall Guy guest appearances from Roy Rogers that he did were his last two primetime TV appearances. He did a lot of interviews over the years, of course, especially for Christian programming, but the Fall Guy was his last appearance as an action hero. The last Western hero reunion on the Fall Guy was Season 3's episode King of the Cowboys, which was basically a full tribute to Roy, featuring a song dedicated to him from his son and old movie footage of Roy in action. It also featured Peter Breck dressed as his Big Valley character, Nick Barkley. The Big Valley starred Lee Majors as well as his brother Heath. That episode also featured John Russell from The Lawman.
No, but there are a lot of horses right there.
And Jock Mahoney from the classic Western The Range Rider.
Let's go. Well, okay.
He appeared on The Fall Guy in 3 other episodes as well as 2 different characters. Lee Majors managed to bring his $6 Million Man co-stars onto The Fall Guy.
The modern answer to Dracula. Whose blood are you sucking today?
Richard Anderson, who played Oscar on The $6 Million Man, played a crook on the episode Inside Outside.
I don't want you or the girl killed.
You're not making a very good case for yourself.
Jennifer Darling, who played the secretary on The $6 Million Man and the Bionic Woman, got a small part in the episode Wheels.
It's wild, Steve. It's wild.
One of my favorite actors, Monty Markham, who played as the $7 Million Man, showed up as a James Bond kind of character on the Fall Guy episode License to Kill, which, by the way, would become the title for an actual James Bond movie in 1989. The Bionic Woman herself, Lindsay Wagner, guest starred on the episode Devil's Island. There were perhaps a couple of nods to their older shows. The leap the two do in one scene is just the kind of thing you could expect from the Bionic duo.
You gotta be kidding.
No, it's a cinch.
Right, if you're an eagle.
And at the end, Wagner's character makes reference to being in high school with Colt, just like their Bionic counterparts.
You know, it's been a long time since high school.
And she also mentioned that she was a teacher, just like Jamie Summers was on The Bionic Woman.
My teaching credentials, well, they've been gathering dust long enough, I think.
You know, we never got to see the $6 Million Man take on the Hulk, but we sort of got close when Colt Seavers faced off against Lou Ferrigno while he was doing a stunt scene for the Hulk TV show, which required him to get hit by Lou Ferrigno on the Fall Guy episode License to Kill.
Colt Seavers, is that you?
On the episode License to Kill, Part 2.
I sure would like to come over and do some stunts for you.
Oh, yeah, that'd be great.
Colt and Howie are in disguise on an adventure in Hawaii, and trying not to let Tom Selleck see them for obvious reasons. It's a great scene, and it's neat to see Tom Selleck pull up in the classic red Magnum P.I. Ferrari. But did it really happen?
Your life taken some kind of peculiar turn since we worked together?
Turn?
Did Lee Majors actually interact with Tom Selleck in this scene? Or were we fooled?
How's Magnum going?
Well, it's going real well.
If you look at IMDb, the location for filming this episode is Los Angeles, California. Selleck was, as we know, spending most of his time filming Magnum P.I. in Hawaii. If you look at the scene other than the tops of Howie and Colt's head, which really could have been anybody, Selleck and Lee Majors are never really seen in the same shot. Tom Selleck must have filmed his part in Hawaii while Lee Majors filmed his part of the conversation in California. Also interesting about this is that Magnum and the Fall Guy were on 2 different networks, CBS and ABC. While Colt may have gotten really embarrassed this episode, at least he did get to make out with Aaron Gray from Buck Rogers and Silver Spoons fame.
She's some kind of woman, isn't she?
Like most big shows of the 80s, The Fall Guy featured a lot of beautiful women, including Marky Post, who played Terry for 65 episodes. She quit the last season, though, and went on to star on Night Court for several seasons. And of course, there was Heather Thomas, who was basically synonymous with the 80s. She claimed she made enough off of poster sales to pay for her house. Hey, thanks for watching. Please subscribe, like, and let me know what you think in the comments. Share your Fall Guy memories. And did you like the recent movie? Oh, and let me know what you like me to talk about next. Thanks. Y'all have a good day.